Hey fam, I am back, and this is video number 7 in the woman, her essence, her purpose, her role, her power. So this is a serious series, but I in the last video I talked I I talked a lot about the help and how in the context of marriage, woman was created to be a support and a help for her husband. And really, I guess, just to encourage um, both men and women to try to, in the context of marriage, to try to understand each other from that perspective. That we in the context of marriage, both male and female were kind of given to each other. I say, at least today in a finished state. I mean, that we didn't see that with the first man and woman, but we we are kind of given to each other in a finished and an unfinished state, because, well, I guess I'll just say a fallen state, and it is what we're both trying to become. And sometimes that can get a little sticky, and it can cause conflict, and it can cause problems. And if things are not worked out right, and you don't have two people that have that mindset in terms of trying to work it out that way, it can unfortunately not work out. And um, so going back to what I talked about in the last video, my prayer for this whole series is really for unity. It is unity for males and females as this homogenous, just as human beings, as male man and female man, male Adam and female Adam. And it is my desire to see unity in the context of the marriage relationships, because even though it can be a very difficult journey, it can be something that is very worthwhile and beautiful if you have two people who really want to do the things that Yah has called them to do. Hard, but it can turn out in the end, to be something that's very beautiful. So I just want to, really take the time to encourage husbands and wives to understand that about each other. And when those differences come up, it's just like this, might be the flip side of the other coin, but thank God for what I do have in you for the other side. So it's almost like, you could have somebody who's creative and they're very artistic and you just love their creativity. But on the flip side, they might just be stuff everywhere, disorganized. It's like, oh my gosh, could you get that up? Could you get that up? But they're this free spirit. They're creative. And so you get the flip side of the same coin. You might have somebody who is very headstrong, but they can lead, they can administrate, you can depend on them to do certain things, but at the same time it creates this conflict. So you never just have the one thing that is going to be the benefit. You're always going to have this what seems like a vice to this virtue. So it's just being aware of that and saying, Father, thank you for the virtues. I know the vice is going to come with it and I got to deal with that, but that's what's going to make me stronger. That's what's going to help us to grow. That's what's going to help to, hopefully bring us closer together and to appreciate these differences that we have, that just kind of in some ways comes with the territory. So, to just be encouraged. And, my prayer is for marriages everywhere, that they are successful and that they make it, and that they, that vow that men and women, when they stood at the altar and made that vow before Yah, that is something that they would live out lifelong, and that would come to fruition, because that can be. We live in a society with fallen men, and we have all these, different things that happen, and it's unfortunate. But even with the how pervasive that is, and that's even on the increase, people still can be successful. They can be successful. It's just that relationship causes both parties to have to adjust to become more like Yahushua in character. That it literally is, that's the kind of journey that is. It is the molding of both to become more like him. And at some point, I'm gonna get into Ephesians, and I'm gonna talk a little bit about that when I talk a little bit about headship. So I'm gonna try to wrap this up, like I said, and this would be one of the 2 videos, but there are some other ones that are probably going to come on the end of the backside, because there are some things that I do want to talk about and address that I think that do need to be talked about. So with that, I'm going to jump into the other part, because I talked about help. So now I want to get into the meat part, because I think this is, it's just beautiful to see. It's beautiful to look at, and my prayer is that what it will do is it will help to set some of the sisters free, and that it will help maybe some of the brothers who have seen. I apologize, I'm not at home right now, and I'm trying to do this, and so there are some noises and things in the background that are out of my control, so please bear with me on that one. My prayer is that even with some of the brothers, this will help to maybe adjust and change some of the ways that you might consider women, that you might consider your wife, and hopefully it will serve as a benefit, just something that will help. So when we look at that word meat, like I said, that word is translated the same as him. So when Yah said in Genesis 2, verse 18, in the last part, he said, I will make him and help meet for him. That's 2 words, not 1 word. Not a help meet, an help. That is meat for him. So when we look at that word meat, that word meat is, the first part of it is H5048. And it is pronounced, it looks like it's pronounced as, let's see here, what is the pronunciation down here? Neged. It looks like that's the way it's pronounced. And it means a front. It means part, opposite. It means specifically a counterpart, a mate, usually adverbial, especially with preposition, over, against, before, about, over, against, aloof, afar off, from, over, presence, other, side, sight, view. So that is some of it. And then if we look at the outline of Bible usage, it is what is conspicuous. And something that is conspicuous almost sounds like, I don't know. It's weird, because it sounds ironically to me when this is not what the word means, but I think of something that is kind of like secret and hidden. But of course, it means totally the opposite. It's something that stands out so that it is clearly visible. That is what conspicuous is. So in the outline of Bible usage, it is what is conspicuous, what is in front of, straightforward, before, sight, in front of oneself, before your face, in your view or purpose, what is corresponding to. In front of, parallel to means equal. Over, in front of, opposite, at a distance, from, away from, before the eyes of. So, if we looked at this, we could literally say that when we talk about male Adam, what female Adam was what was conspicuous or right in front of male Adam. It was Adam in front of Adam, Adam before the sight of Adam, Adam in the presence of Adam, Adam parallel to Adam, Adam opposite to Adam, Adam before the eyes of Adam, Adam at a distance from Adam, Adam from before Adam. And when we think about it that way, then we can see how that goes back to essence, and we can see how all of this works. But this is important and comes into play because unless we understand it, and this goes back to what I talked about a little bit earlier and what I talked about in the last video, a lot of times what we have is we have these relationships, especially in the context of marriage, where you have, while there's an order, it shouldn't be domineering and it shouldn't be controlling, because that's not the way that Yah intended it. And as we can see here, we have 2 beings that are equal in essence, both male Adam and female Adam. And this was never a situation where one one man was supposed to rule over another man. It was a situation where this was going to be a co-rulership in the earth, and each one of them had their role and each one of them had their function. So this word 5048, it comes from another word which is H5046, and that is a primitive root, and it looks like that one is pronounced negad, and this one is to be conspicuous. Like I said, something that is plainly in view. This is the Bible outline. I'll read this one first. To tell, to make known, to tell, declare, to tell, announce, report, declare, make known, expound, inform, to publish, declare, proclaim, to avow, acknowledge, confess, messenger, to be told, to be announced, to be reported. Now, before I get into the actual, where the Strong's actually goes into the definition of this, this is where some of these wordings, this starts to come together. Because earlier when I talked about why so many women are gifted in this, a lot of the women that we saw in the scripture, and they were gifted, a lot of them were gifted in prophecy. But when we talk about prophecy, a lot of these words that we see when we talk about how the woman is wired and how she's made, these are some of the same things that we see. Because what does prophecy do? To tell, to announce, to make known, to expound, to proclaim, to acknowledge. These are a lot of the things that we see when we look at the word prophecy and we begin to break that down. And so in trying to start to kind of bring all this together into a picture, I want you to begin to see how the way woman is wired. Woman was never meant to be silent. Just by virtue of the way she's wired and what she was meant to do in terms of coming into bringing her alongside her male counterpart. Now, this is not just a verbal thing, so I'm not saying that, because I do believe that this has a lot to do with her characteristic and her design and her makeup, her ability to carry life and to bring forth life, and to be able to, it was through her that Yah was going to show what it was that he originally intended, because there was going to be no take dominion without her ability to be able to do this. And because she is Adam with a womb, it is her that it was going to be able, that Yah was going to show what he always intended through her. Yeah, male man was going to have a part in that, in providing the seed, but what was going to form in her and be brought from her, that is where we were going to see this whole species we know as man spread over the earth and take dominion in the way that Yah wanted it to be. And so it was going to be through her that Yah was going to publish and declare and proclaim, announce, report, all these different things that he wanted to do. He was going to show that through female man. And as we get into the seed of the woman and what Yah originally intended, it's going to become even more evident and more clear as I get into what the seed of the woman actually is, and talking about that from Genesis all the way through up into Yahushua. So we're going to get into that a little bit later. But when we look at the definition that the Strong's gives for this, because what I just read to you was Strong's, the biblical the outline of biblical usage. But the actual definition is a primitive root, properly to front, to stand out boldly opposite, by implication, causatively, to manifest, to announce, always by word of mouth to one present, specifically to expose, predict, explain, praise, bewray, certainly, certify, declare, declaring, denounce, expound, fully, messenger, plainly, profess, rehearse, report, show forth, speak, surely, tell, utter. All of those are all, these are all some of the ways that female man is wired. So what my prayer in the other part of my prayer and my goal, my objective in doing this particular recording in this video is I want to encourage my sisters, because you were not created to be hidden behind some curtain. You were not created to be pressed down and suppressed. You were created to stand out boldly opposite in who you are, the differences that you have from male man, and it could even be in the context of marriage, but the differences that make you who you are created to stand boldly out opposite. And it's like I said in the other video, and this is, this is for all women, but never let anybody, and male, female man, male man, whoever, because this can happen from father to daughter, from husband to wife. This can happen in all kinds of different contexts, but never allow someone to determine what you see about yourself. Sometimes what we've been through in our lives, and as I share more of more videos, I'm going to get into my own background and some of the things that I've walked through in my own life. And all these things haven't been easy. So there are things that have brought me to where I am today. And I feel like as I'm speaking, I have a reservoir, I guess I'll say, of experience that I've learned from my life and the things that I've walked through in my life. And I'll share some of the things that I've been through at some point. And y'all knows when that time will be. But it is never allow a man to cause you to form an opinion of yourself. It was never for any man to create an image that you reflect when that image is negative, that you're now reflecting what somebody has said of you, because their words have formed this image that you have in your mind. They'll say something about you and you believe that's really the case. But to understand that it was Yah who created you, and when he formed you and brought you forth, that male man was he was asleep but out somewhere, but he wasn't present in that formation process. It was just female man in her formation process and her creator. And so there are things about you that only Yah knows. And so when we want to be healed and we want to be whole, we want to look to him. And sometimes that might mean that we go see a professional. There's nothing wrong with these things. I think that this is really good, because professionals can help us in being able to make connections and see why we have certain thought processes that we have, when those thought processes are destructive or they don't work out for our best. So all these things are wonderful, but we want to always look to Yah, because you are beautiful in the way that Yah has created you to be. And it doesn't matter what some person thinks about you, because they don't define who you are. Yah defines who you are. And it is his word that created you and that established you and gave you the giftings and the talents that you have. And you are not like anybody else. Like, there is nobody else in the world. There may be people who look like you, but nobody bears your exact DNA, your exact characteristics. So there is an expression of Yah that only you can express in the way that you can express it. Somebody else might be able to teach. Somebody else might be able to sing. Somebody else might be able to lead, but they don't do it in the way that you do it. So there are these ways about us that my prayer is for our women, for the daughters of Zion, and for women, that we understand that Yah has created us so very uniquely. And he wants us to be confident in who we are as women. He wants us to stand out boldly opposite, not to be hidden somewhere away, not to hide in a corner, not to feel like we have to be silent. When I read these words to you, explain, praise, expound, messenger, profess, rehearse, report, tell, utter, do any of those things sound like a woman should be silent? And like I said, that could also be in character, not just in this verbal thing, because that could be descriptive language as well. But because women are more prone to talk and to expound and we have more words to say normally, clearly God didn't create us to be quiet. So as long as what we are saying is edifying and we are moved by the spirit of Yah, then there's no reason why women cannot operate in the way that Yah has designed them to operate. And I do believe that when we look at this design, and when as we're breaking this down here, There is this reason why there are so many women that were gifted in prophecy. Because when we look at these words, a lot of these words, when we break down prophecy, a lot of these words seem to be similar. So it's not just in the essence of this character and what she is called to bring about and to show forth, because I believe ultimately, like I said, what was to bring forth was life as Yah intended it. Life is in this way of knowing and being in the world, experiencing each other, relating to each other, relating to our Heavenly Father. These were all things that he wanted to show forth through this female Adam, or through female Adam. And we're going to get more into that when we jump into her name. As we break her name down, you'll see exactly what I mean by that. But in saying this, again, I want to encourage you to be who Yah has called you to be. It's a growth process. It is. I mean, I love my dad. I love my dad very, very much. But part of my past is, I grew up with a father who was verbally abusive, and it could have been because one of his parents was that way. And to a great degree that it established this image that I had of myself. So for a lot of my life, I struggled, a whole lot of my life, and it caused all kind of problems in relationships and all kinds of stuff. And but it went back to that. And so at this point in my life, I'm aware of that, and I've been aware for some time now that abuse that took place growing up formed this distorted view that at that time I had of myself. But as I, through life and this process of where Yah has brought me from and where he's taken me to, that's no longer the case in my life. So my image of me is no longer based on what somebody spoke over me, but it's based on who Yah says that I am. And as I grow and develop and change, I'm becoming more and more of who it is that Yah says I am. And so that is part of my heart and my passion for the daughters of Zion, because we do struggle in that. We struggle a lot in that. I want to praise you for your strength and your heart. One of the things, and like I said, going back to some of the comments that some of these guys made, one of the comments that one of the guys made, they just, with this whole attitude, as he talked about specifically the daughters of Zion, so-called black women, is who he was talking about, and referred to us as undisciplined and the most undesirable of all women, and some of these things that he said. And I thought to myself, wow, how some daughters of Zion would see that and that would really impact and affect them. But what I realized, that is his issue, and his real issue is with the so-called black woman. But it's a personal issue that he has, and maybe he doesn't. That's not what he prefers. It's not his preference. I don't know what it is, but whatever that is, when we are dealing with an individual like that, we've got to let their issue be their issue. Don't let that poison infect you and infest your way of being, your way of knowing and living and being in this world. Don't let it impact your relationship with the Most High and who Yah has created you to be. You get up in the morning and you look in the mirror every day and you say, I am beautiful. I look good. You praise what it is that how Yah has created you. Even if you have to work that up and you go, I might not quite see it because, oh my gosh, I'm looking a little interesting this morning, but let me do the best that I can to, fix myself up and to care for myself. So I really want to bring that out for the daughters of Zion, because that is just part of my heart. Like, we as women have been through so much, and I want to share a story. This is a true story, and you might not be able to find this statistic online, and you probably won't, but this did happen a long time ago, and I was still a Christian at the time, and there was a Caucasian couple who were the youth pastors over the youth department at the time, and they had been trying for 10 years to have a baby. They couldn't have a baby, So a guy used to come to the church, and he flowed in the prophetic, and he would just minister the whole body, edify the whole body. But he had these words that were specific to different people. So he walked up to them one day and said, "Where's your son?" And they just fell apart crying, because this was, something that was really near and dear to their heart. And so in the process of, it wasn't long, to be honest, I think it was a couple of months, and she got pregnant. They had a baby. And before I say this, please understand that I'm not trying to make a distinction in ethnicities and stuff. It might sound that way, but I'm really telling a story about something else. So anyway, they had a baby, and the baby had some issues because he came early, and he was in the neonatal unit. So the nurses were having a conversation, and she was relaying this to us at the church at the time after all this had transpired. And she was saying the nurses were telling her this was something they didn't understand, but this is what the nurses said. They said when babies are sick and they're fighting for their lives, there's something that we see that we don't understand. When it comes to all the babies, the black females, the black males, the white females, the white males, they said the black female is the strongest. She, of all that we don't really understand why that's the case, but she tends to have a higher rate of survival. And so then they went on to say, okay, well, the black female, and then what we see is the black male, and then, on down the line in that same order. And so by saying that, I'm not trying to make a distinction or make somebody seem inferior and somebody superior, but in saying that, I want to bring out that strength is already in you. This fight that we as black women have, and we've had, it seemingly, all women, but we've had from the beginning, that fight and that strength and that will to survive no matter what happens, that causes us to kind of buck up and be when we need to be that provider for our families, and work 2 jobs to maintain our home, and to love our children, and whatever these things are. This strength that is resident on the inside of us, this beauty and who Yah has created us to be. That is what I want to praise in the daughters of Zion today, because I don't ever want you to resent that strength and that ability that Yah has given you. There's a reason He's given us that, and it is innate in who we are, even in as we are that embryonic process, and when we come forth, that fight and that for survival is already resident and already there. And that is something that I appreciate about the daughters of Zion, about what I call so-called black women. And so it's unfortunate when you have brothers who will say these kind of things, because it is probably the strength of black women that is the reason why he is where he is today. That black women who have done whatever they had to do to make sure that their children got what they needed to get, or whatever that might be. And so I want to praise that strength in you, because you are beautiful. The melanin in your skin helps to keep you looking young and keeps your skin gorgeous. And don't be afraid to sport your 4C, 4B, 3C, whatever your hair might be. Don't be afraid to just let it out, because this is who Yah has created you to be. And so I want to say that. I know I'm talking about the purpose and the power, but I feel like that this is important when it comes to the daughters of Zion specifically. So and I mean, that goes further. It's not just so-called black women. When I say the daughters of Zion, this goes back to this whole consciousness thing. So it's not just that, but when I'm saying this kind of thing, I'm specifically talking to my melanated sisters, so-called black women, and anybody that would be a descendant of that, because we get a lot of that in this world, in society, and it's unfortunate, because it can tear us down. And so in this video, as I'm talking about this, I'm here to build my sisters up. And if someone is speaking words over you that are poison and toxic and to tear you down, you sometimes you got to do what you got to do. And my prayer is that you're not in that kind of situation. But if there's a way to navigate around these kind of things where you can adjust to where you're not in that kind of a situation, and you're not suffering that kind of a thing, then by all means, uh, try to establish things in such a way where you're not subjected to that kind of a thing. You know, I mean, of course, if it's a serious abuse, then you know that's a whole different story. You need to find your way out. But I'm just talking about sometimes, you know, it just people can say stuff and whatever. But you are beautiful, like you are so beautiful, and I want you to know that you are beautiful, and don't ever let anybody tell you otherwise. And you operate in that beauty, not in pride, not anything like that, but be the beauty and that strong, beautiful, capable, intelligent woman that Yah has created you to be. So you were meant to stand boldly opposite out. And that is part of your purpose. That is part of your role. And I want to say to the brothers again, where you will not allow your wife to do this, you cripple what Yah is wanting you to have. Because all that is in her, in her ability to do that, that's where all of that help comes. And when you stifle it, then you prevent yourself from getting the help that you need. And then you're frustrated and you say, well, this is just not working. Why is she that way? Well, if you let the reins up just a little bit, you might see that things change some in your in the way that you deal with her, because you know everybody's different. Some women, most women, and this is what I say, and I believe this is true for most women. If they know that their husband loves and cares about them, you can get almost anything that you want. I don't mean this in a bad way, like in a manipulative way, but they're just far more prone to do whatever they can do to honor and to serve when that element is there. And I believe that that's why that's why Paul said in Ephesians to love your wife, because that might not come as natural. Not that men don't love their wives, but I'm talking about the whole laying your life down thing. That might not come quite as natural. Just like for women, when he said, respect and honor your husband. So I'm not going to get over into all that right now, but my whole goal in this video was to deal with the whole, that meat part of it. And you can see how when we just take help meat and they just define it as help, but it doesn't define you. Like it may tell like what your purpose is, but it doesn't define how you're that. So yeah, you're a help, but how are you that help? What qualifies you to be that? And when we can break down this word meat, then we can see how that then plays out in her role. So in this video, I want to say that I've talked about her role and her purpose, and maybe to some degree her power, but definitely her purpose and her role. So in the next video, I am going to jump into her name. And I think the next video might be the last one. And then on the tail end, I do want to talk about Ephesians, and I want to go to Proverbs, because I'm going to revisit this idea of help, because I think it is just so profound when we look at Proverbs and you know who this woman was, what she did over the course of her life, and how that impacted her whole family. How that built up her husband and why he was able to do what he did, because she was fully able to spread her wings and be who Yah had called her to be. She wasn't suppressed. She wasn't oppressed. She wasn't held down. She wasn't cursed. None of those things were happening with her. But she was set free to be who Yah called her to be. And in doing that, the heart of her husband could safely trust in her. So I'm going to revisit that. And then I'm also going to get into the next video. I'll be talking about her name. But I just want to end this video today, as I usually do. It is Shabbat. By saying, may Yah bless you and keep you. May he make his face shine upon you. May he be gracious to you. May he grant you peace. May he bless the marriages in the Hebrew community and abroad, because Yah is for marriage. It can work if we allow ourselves to have to get wisdom from other people, to listen to each other, and to work to gain the tools that we need to work through the hard times that inevitably come in every relationship. So with that, again, I want to encourage my sisters. You are beautiful and you have so much potential. Oh my gosh. Just like this week, take a journal and just write down all the good things about yourself, just like all of them. And like, you might just say, take it like when you're in the car, record it on your phone and just listen to it. That's one thing you can do to build yourself up, because we're just, there's just this onslaught. You're supposed to look like that. You're supposed to look like this. You're supposed to, but I'm so thankful for my I would not change my melanated skin for anything in this world. I'm pleased with, the chocolate it works for me. So I, that to say, appreciate yourself, appreciate who you are, your background, and how Yah wants to use that to not just heal you, but also to heal other people. If, as he heals you. So again, have a beautiful day, and we will talk in the next video. Shalom.